It was front page news all over the world today. John Wayne was dead. In Tokyo,
a home in Newport Beach concealed John Wayne's deepest, darkest secrets for many years. His whole home was sealed the day he passed away in 1979, preserving all of his personal belongings for the next 3 decades. The doors were ultimately unlocked in 2011, and the contents shocked everyone. Among them were record-breaking movie props and a devastating will that had split his family in two. The true tale of the Duke's wealth is told here. The birth of John Wayne's mother, Marion Robert Morrison, took place in Winterset, Iowa, on May 26, 1907. His birth weight of 13 pounds was so remarkable that it made headlines in the neighborhood newspaper. It looked like his destiny was to be bigger than life right from the off. When he was 3 years old, he had a near-death experience falling into a freezing creek. A stranger who was passing by rescued him, and that incident shaped his resilience that he would keep with him forever. Early on, he changed his name. Marion had her middle name changed to Mitchell when her parents opted to name their second son Robert. Though seemingly little, this shift foreshadowed far larger changes that were to come. His father's company collapsed in his hometown, so the family uprooted and headed for Glendale, California in 1914. Because Marion's Airedale Terrier, Duke, was also called Duke, he became known as Duke in Glendale. As a result of their constant companionship, the neighborhood firemen started referring to them as Big Duke and Little Duke. The moniker remained when Marion approved of it. Marion had a passion for football when she was little. He attended USC on a football scholarship in 1925, where he was a member of the Sigma Chi fraternity and a pre-law student. But he never got to play football since a body surfing accident broke his shoulder. It was tragic to lose the scholarship. He felt his dreams would never come true, yet this mishap really set him on the road to stardom. In 1927, once Marion's football career came to an end, he secured employment at Fox Studios. His weekly salary as a prop guy was $35. It wasn't spectacular, but it was a start. In the 1926 film Brown of Harvard, he made his feature debut not as an actor, but as an uncredited football player. He befriended filmmaker John Ford at this period. Ford sensed potential in him and even advised him to choose a more powerful moniker. The alternative that would become well known as John Wayne was selected after some deliberation. It was a rough start to Wayne's acting career. He was in more than 80 low-budget westerns from 1930 to 1939, with some films filmed in as little as 2 days. He was so strapped for cash that he would go days without eating anything more substantial than a can of beans warmed on a hot griddle. His lack of success had him contemplating retiring from acting altogether by 1938. Stagecoach in 1939 was the turning point. Casting Wayne wasn't a picnic, but the film was a smashing success. John Ford insisted on using Wayne and threatened to leave the production if they didn't accept him, even though the studio preferred an established star like Gary Cooper. Wayne portrayed the law-abiding outlaw Ringo Kid in the film. With a weapon held aloft, the camera panned in on his face in his memorable opening shot. Even though it was brief, Wayne was so anxious that he needed 27 attempts to get it perfect. Stagecoach was a smashing success, nominated for 7 Oscars and taking home 2. His performance catapulted Wayne to stardom. The film altered his life, yet he only made $3,700 for it, far less than A-list performers. Following that, Wayne was regarded as the pinnacle of Western heroes. Without wanting to compromise his image, he declined parts in films such as High Noon and The Maltese Falcon. He became an icon of American machismo and toughness because to this choice. Over the course of more than half a century, John Ford and John Wayne collaborated on 14 films that revolutionized the film industry. In 1928, Ford cast Wayne in a small supporting role in a film called Mother McCree, marking the beginning of their collaboration. However, their breakthrough came in 1939 with Stagecoach, the picture that catapulted Wayne to stardom. Their professional dynamic was fraught. Wayne frequently took Ford's criticism the hardest. Ford humiliated Wayne on the 1956 set of The Searchers by making him redo a minor scene, just picking up a gun, 17 times. Wayne never once grumbled, even though he thought Ford's tough approach brought out the best in him. Despite being widely regarded as one of the best films of all time, The Searchers was overlooked by the Academy Awards upon its release. Even Donovan's Reef, 1963, their final film together, was on the brink of cancellation. Ford was in bad health and fighting alcoholism, but Wayne persuaded him to direct nevertheless, even though Wayne wasn't sure he should play the part due to his age. In Hawaii, where filming took place, the scorching heat reached 100 degrees Fahrenheit on occasion. Ford had shingles while filming and had to direct shots while laying on a stretcher. The film overcame these obstacles and ultimately performed decently at the box office. This film demonstrated that they could switch gears from their usual serious westerns to a more comedic tone. Despite being toward the end of his career, Wayne received his first Oscar nod for his portrayal of the resolute Marine Sergeant John Stryker in 1949's Sands of Iwo Jima. Wayne originally turned down the part because he felt it was too similar to others he had performed. Herbert Yates, president of Republic Pictures, had to personally offer him $250,000 and a cut of the profits, a substantial amount for that era, to persuade him. Making the movie was no picnic. The use of genuine flamethrowers and explosives was an effort by director Alan Duane to make the war scenes seem authentic. As a result, several people were hurt on site, and production had to be halted for 2 days due to an explosion that rendered Wayne comatose for 30 minutes. With the help of the United States, the film was able to integrate authentic footage from the Battle of Iwo Jima. Military, which enabled the producers to use rare battle video that was so expertly mixed with produced scenarios that several viewers believed the whole thing was real. In a famous sequence, the original battle flag was used to hoist the flag on Mount Suribachi. 3 of the remaining Marines who had raised the flag were even included in the film. Broderick Crawford beat out Wayne for Best Actor in All the King's Men, despite Wayne's outstanding performance. Wayne, paradoxically, had declined the main part in that picture on the grounds that he felt it was anti-American. He was devastated by the defeat and went 11 years without another nomination. One of the most daring films that John Wayne ever filmed was The Alamo, 1960, his lifelong ambition. He finally got around to making the film he'd planned to create for over 15 years by mortgaging his home, vehicles, and boat. $12 million was a huge sum for the production. It took 2 years and more than 1.5 million adobe bricks to construct Wayne's full-scale Alamo replica in Texas. Including nails from the 1830s, every detail was faithful to the original. The set was available to the public until 2009 and became a popular tourist destination. The Alamo required an enormous amount of manpower and resources, including more than 7,000 extras, 1,500 horses, and 79 days of shooting in scorching temperatures that occasionally reached 110 degrees Fahrenheit. In one scene, an extra required 26 stitches after being wounded by a bayonet. Accidents also occurred. No matter how difficult it was, Wayne would not compromise his standards. A spectacular spectacle complete with a parade and fireworks marked the debut of the film. The critical reception was lukewarm, and the film's box office receipts fell short of covering its astronomical production expenses, despite 7 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture. Wayne was quite unhappy that he did not even receive a Best Director nomination. However, the picture has left an indelible mark on audiences' recollection of the Alamo tale. The role of one-eyed U.S. soldier Rooster Cogburn, whom Wayne performed in the 1970 film True Grit, earned him his first Academy Award, High Marshal. Although he was still in the process of recovering from lung cancer surgery and felt too old to assume the job, he read the novel and recognized it may be his dream role. The filming location was Colorado, where he suffered from the effects of the cold and high altitude on his health. Even in between scenes, he needed to use an oxygen tank. Wayne tore a muscle in his shoulder but continued to portray Rooster Cogburn despite a near fall when his horse tripped on a steep slope. He had to commit the sets to memory to prevent himself from stumbling because of his weight increase and the eye patch he wore, which impaired his vision. There had never been a performance like it, and the crowd went wild. One of his most successful films to date, earning over $31 million. Wayne, who was sick with the illness that night but still insisted on attending the Oscars, is legendary for saying, "If I'd known this, I'd have put that patch on 35 years earlier," as he won his prize. Some saw Wayne's Academy Award as more of a nod to his lengthy career than to the performance itself. Wayne himself subsequently acknowledged that he felt the same way. The film's success, however, solidified his status as one of Hollywood's most legendary actors, and Rooster Cogburn became an iconic figure for him. There were many highs and lows in John Wayne's romantic life. His career was just starting to take off when he wed Josephine Sands in 1933. He was married 3 times in the nearly 50 years that followed. They were married for 4 years, although Wayne was often absent due to his burgeoning stardom. The situation became much more complicated in 1938 when he started an affair with Marlene Dietrich, an actress. After Wayne took Josephine to Mexico in 1943 in an effort to mend their marriage, the couple ultimately separated in 1945. He wed Esperanza Bauer for a second time in 1946, and their marriage was turbulent and full of issues. While filming 1947's Angel and the Bad Man, Mexican actress Esperanza became envious and thought Wayne was seeing his co-star Gail Russell. When Wayne returned home late from a party one night, Esperanza's anger boiled over. In a rage, she lunged for a revolver and attempted to shoot him as he entered the house. Although everyone involved escaped unharmed, the marriage did not last and they eventually divorced in 1954. Pilar Petty was Wayne's 3rd wife, and the couple wed in 1954 and remained married until his death in 1979. For a time, their relationship appeared steady. They had 3 children together. But Wayne and Pilar had already broken up by 1973. Subsequently, Wayne and Pat Stacey, his secretary, moved in together despite their separate residences. Importantly, Wayne and Pilar did not formally file for a divorce. The Hollywood community knew about Wayne's connection with Marlene Dietrich. It started in 1938 while the movie 7 Sinners was being made and continued for over a decade. He continued to spend evenings at Dietrich's place while being married to Josephine. In their heartfelt letter exchanges, the two expressed their intense affection for one another. Even Wayne's career was boosted by Dietrich's influence. He landed prominent roles in films like Pittsburgh, 1942, and The Spoilers. Dietrich frequently referred to Wayne as the love of her life, and the two remained close friends even after their affair ended in 1947. The bond between Wayne and Maureen O'Hara was one of his most publicized relationships. Rio Grande, released in 1950, was the first of 5 films in which they appeared together. Many thought they were a real-life couple because of the electric chemistry they displayed in their most renowned picture, The Quiet Man, 1952. An elderly woman who mistakenly believed she was Wayne's wife was also the subject of O'Hara's jokes. Wayne's children's warm fondness for her as Auntie Morin attests to her tight relationship with the family. Even though he thought it wouldn't have worked because they were both too stubborn, O'Hara's grandson eventually acknowledged that he and Wayne had a brief relationship. Still, O'Hara was there for Wayne right up to his death from cancer, and assisted him in getting a congressional medal to commemorate his life and work. Wayne was consoled by his secretary, Pat Stacey, in his latter years. Pat took up the role of partner and caretaker following his separation from Pilar. They had a profound bond despite the fact that she was 34 years his junior. As he battled cancer, Pat was there for him every step of the way, taking care of business and making sure he received the assistance he needed. Between 1973 to his death in 1979, they lived together. Following his death, Pat penned Duke: A Love Story, 1983, in which she detailed their relationship and showed fans a side of Wayne they had never seen before, a more sensitive and vulnerable side. Pat never wed and lived her life to the fullest, honoring his memory. She died in 1995. Physicians diagnosed John Wayne with lung cancer in 1964 at the age of 57. Wayne had smoked 6 packs of cigarettes daily for years, so although shocking, it wasn't totally unexpected. A left lung and 2 ribs were removed by the physicians in an effort to preserve his life. There was a 50% chance of survival after the dangerous operation, but Wayne managed to pull it off and has been cancer-free for 5 years. While most people would have stayed quiet about their sickness, Wayne was different. Despite advisors' warnings that it may be detrimental to his career, he decided to inform the world. He hoped to make a difference by urging others to seek cancer screenings. As an extra measure, he gave the illness a moniker, the Big C, to help people cope with it. He made an appearance in a TV ad for the American Cancer Society in 1965, 1 year following his operation, to encourage viewers to fund cancer research and treat the disease with the seriousness it deserves. However, he was still not free from cancer. Wayne found that he had cancer of the digestive tract in 1979. Even after trying an experimental vaccination, nothing worked. Wayne continued to speak up despite his deteriorating condition. He taped messages pleading for increased financing for cancer research while he was in the hospital. "I wouldn't stake my life on it," he remarked a few weeks before his death, even if he acknowledged the possibility of finding a cancer cure independently. The Shootist, 1976, was Wayne's final film. This fictional account of a dying gunfighter felt eerily similar to Wayne's own life. When filming began, he was 68 years old and in terrible condition. In between sequences, he frequently needed oxygen. But it didn't stop him from insisting on doing his own stunts. A number of times in one scenario, he had to stumble into a hard floor, yet he never once grumbled. For many, the film marked the end of Wayne's career, and it was a commercial triumph. He went so far as to alter the conclusion to suit his imposing persona. According to the original narrative, his character was shot in the back. However, Wayne declined the role, stating, "I've never shot a man in the back in any movie." Thus, the original plot was changed. With the $13.4 million film's success, he was able to bid farewell to a part that reflected his own bravery. John Wayne passed away at the age of 72 on June 11, 1979. He fought stomach cancer for months before passing suddenly at UCLA Medical Center. For both Hollywood and his devoted followers, his passing was a watershed event. He was hailed as an American hero and described as bigger than life by President Jimmy Carter. Thousands of admirers showed up at his house and hospital to offer him gifts, including cowboy hats, flowers, and letters. People began lighting candles at his Hollywood Walk of Fame star in his honor. Fans were able to say their last goodbyes at a public tribute after Wayne's private funeral. Many millions of people viewed it when it aired on television. Despite his lack of military service, he was designated an honorary member of the 1979 class of the United States Naval Academy. The citizens of Orange County honored his memory by renaming their airport John Wayne Airport after his passing. To commemorate John Wayne and carry on his battle against cancer, his family established the John Wayne Cancer Foundation in 1985. They were determined that his name would forever be associated with bravery and power. With the support of the foundation, the John Wayne Cancer Institute was able to get off the ground. Since then, it has been at the forefront of cancer research, creating life-saving innovations, including an early detection tool. Upon his passing in 1979, John Wayne left an inheritance valued at $6.85 million, which translates to around $25 million in today's dollars. That didn't seem like much to someone as renowned and accomplished as him. Being one of the highest-paid performers of his day, many assumed his wealth to be far more. This can mean that Wayne was extremely generous with his wealth, or that he squandered it all. Wild Goose, his cherished boat and a former minesweeper from World War II, was sold for $750,000 just before he passed away. Thus, it wasn't included in his inheritance either. It is even more puzzling how much he actually left behind because of the sale of this boat, which played such a pivotal role in his life. Real estate was Wayne's passion. One of his most recognizable houses was the Newport Beach house he purchased in 1965 and remained in until his death in 1979. On the water's edge overlooking Balboa Island was the mansion. As magnificent and sumptuous on the interior as it appeared on the outside, it mirrored Wayne's character. The mansion fetched an astronomical $5.5 million when he passed away in 1980. The 5-acre ranch in Encino belonged to Wayne before he relocated to Newport Beach. Quieter living by the river was his goal when he quit the ranch at age 58. His appreciation for varied settings and astute real estate instincts were on display in his ownership of estates in both Arizona and Washington. "I sure as hell couldn't afford it." Back when he first moved to Newport Beach, he laughed, so it had been a good decision. Much controversy ensued following Wayne's 1979 death when his will was made public. Surprisingly, after being married for more than 20 years, they had divorced in 1973, 6 years before he passed away, he left his third wife, Pilar Petty, nothing. Wayne bequeathed the majority of his assets to his 7 children from his 2 prior marriages, despite the fact that they never divorced. A lot of people started to wonder about their relationship and why Pilar wasn't involved after this choice. Much later on, the drama persisted. AA, Wayne's daughter, was born in 2010. She felt wronged by her brother Ethan and John Wayne Enterprises, so she decided to sue them. Also causing friction were the personal belongings and artifacts left to his children by the bequest. His assets were divided, and the family tensions were made worse by disagreements over these mementos. Amazing news for John Wayne lovers in 2011. An auction including more than 700 artifacts from his life and work was held. On October 6, 7, the Los Angeles Hyatt Century Plaza played host to the event. There was an opportunity for fans and collectors to acquire memorabilia related to his life and work in film. His house was sealed and all of his possessions were transported to storage on the day he passed away in 1979. Thus, many of these artifacts have been kept away since then. After more than 3 decades, it felt as if someone had opened a time capsule. Everything from his house furnishings to costumes, accessories, and trophies were up for grabs in the auction. There were a few things that stood out. Take his screenplays for Wednesday Morning and The Horse Soldiers as examples. Wednesday Morning's script contained folded pages to indicate finished scenes, whereas Wednesday Morning's script was tidy and faultless, demonstrating his organizing abilities. His final driver's license, along with books, clothes, and other personal effects, were also found. His colorful neckerchief collection, which he adored, even fetched $1,755. A few things were record breakers. The actor's iconic green beret from the 1968 film Green Beret broke the record for most expensive costume headgear when it sold for $179,200. He also made $119,500 off of his cowboy hat, which he wore in films like Big Jake and the Cowboys. The $143,400 sale of Wayne's Golden Globe, which he received for his performance in True Grit, also attracted a lot of attention. Being associated with his sole Oscar-winning role made this honor all the more meaningful. Items as innocuous as his most recent driver's license earned $89,500. Similarly, garments from the Alamo and shirts worn in several films garnered several $1,000s. With these mementos, his admirers were able to form an intimate bond with him. His persona was on display at the auction with his filmography. The fact that a gold-plated Winchester rifle that Wayne had donated to his buddy Bob Shelton fetched $113,315 at auction is evidence of his altruism. In his writings, he shared his interests in history and military strategy, among other things. Surprisingly, he had a tender side that was never shown, a collection of seashells. A picture of Wayne by artist John Decker was among the most costly items, selling for $71,700. The fact that Wayne has preserved this artwork in his house speaks volumes about its significance to him. Items such as family pictures, letters, and even his house furnishings were up for sale, providing admirers with a glimpse into John Wayne's private life and demonstrating that, in addition to his fame in Hollywood, he was a loving father, friend, and person who had strong relationships with those closest to him. People are still talking about John Wayne's 1971 interview with Playboy magazine, which caused a lot of outrage. Unveiling his unconventional ideas, he made surprising declarations. He was 63 years old and quite renowned when he made the most notorious comment, which was, "I believe in white supremacy until the blacks are educated to a point of responsibility." However, this was far not his first such statement. He had made remarks along these lines previously. He addressed Native Americans in the same interview, saying that taking their land was necessary for survival and that he did not consider it immoral. Using a homophobic slur and other derogatory terms, he attacked the film Midnight Cowboy. A portion of this interview made a comeback in February 2019 after being uploaded on Twitter years earlier. A tweet that went viral referred to Wayne as a terrible person, and the writer was a scriptwriter. All of a sudden, discussions about his legacy were reviving. Others debated whether his statements should serve as a defining characteristic of his legacy, while yet others sought his cancellation. His remarks, even after all this time, triggered significant discussions on the accountability of well-known individuals and the potential harm that their words might do. Beyond the realm of social media, this dispute brought him and everything named after him into the spotlight, including the John Wayne Airport in Orange County, California. Although the airport was originally named after Wayne in 1979, the local Democratic Party formally requested that it be changed in 2020 in the wake of nationwide protests over George Floyd's murder on June 26, 2020, on the grounds that Wayne's remarks did not reflect the values of diversity and inclusion held by Orange County. Democrats took control of Orange County's congressional delegation in 2018, a stark contrast to the county's historically conservative demographics. While some believed that minority groups would be hurt by the airport bearing Wayne's name, others, like his son Ethan, spoke out in his father's defense, saying that Wayne wasn't racist and that his detractors were unfairly smearing his legacy. The airport is still named after Wayne in 2025, and the controversy surrounding it shows how difficult it is to find common ground when dealing with the legacies of contentious people. Also impacted by the incident was Wayne's alma mater, the University of Southern California, USC. The university's School of Cinematic Arts decided to remove an exhibit about him in July 2020. Late in 2019, students and alumni began to voice their disapproval of the exhibit, which had been up since 2012 and contained movie posters and personal belongings that paid tribute to him as one of their renowned graduates. They claimed that the exhibit was inaccessible to pupils of color because of Wayne's discriminatory remarks. The institution removed it after months of debate, claiming it wanted to promote anti-racism and create a more inclusive educational environment. There were those who thought it was morally wrong to erase history, while others were in favor of the choice. This has led to a more general inquiry. Is it possible to disentangle the beliefs of an artist from their work? The Searchers and Rio Bravo are just two of Wayne's many critically acclaimed films that many fans feel deserve more attention. They hold the perspective that one may be critical of his ideas and still appreciate his work. But detractors say it's hard to distinguish between his film's stereotypical depictions of people of color and his racist remarks. They also note that he frequently portrayed American history in a positive light, omitting the brutality that Native Americans endured in his films.